Hey everyone, and welcome back to Healing Growth. I am pumped for today's deep dive. We're going to be talking about secrets in relationships, and as always, I've got Mika here with me to help us break it all down.
Happy to be here. It's always interesting to explore this stuff.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the importance of honesty in relationships, but does that mean you have to tell your partner like absolutely everything? Is that what it means to have a healthy relationship?
That's a great question. And, if you are digging these deep dives into relationships, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. But yeah, secrets. What's interesting is that the reasons why people keep secrets, it's not always about being like malicious or deceptive. Sometimes it's coming from a place of fear.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm all ears. Tell me more. Why do people keep secrets then?
Well, one of the biggest reasons is fear of judgment. We all have those parts of ourselves or our past that we're maybe not so quick to share, especially when we're first starting to get close to somebody.
Yeah, totally. Like you want to put your best foot forward, right? But when does that become a problem?
It becomes a problem when that fear keeps us from having conversations about the things that are really important in the long run.
So it's not just about the secret itself, but how that secrecy impacts the way we communicate.
Exactly. Another big reason people keep secrets is to avoid conflict. Some people are just so conflict avoidant, they would rather just keep things bottled up than have an argument.
But wouldn't that lead to bigger problems down the line?
You would think. And a lot of times it does. Because those feelings don't just go away, they can turn into resentment if you don't address them.
That makes sense. So we've got fear of judgment, we've got conflict avoidance. What else is going on there?
Another one that's really interesting is the need for independence. Even in really committed relationships, it's healthy to have your own sense of self. And sometimes keeping certain things private can be a way of protecting that individuality.
So that's where the idea of like healthy privacy comes in.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about hiding things that would hurt your partner or damage the relationship. It's about honoring those parts of yourself that are personal. Or maybe you're not ready to share those parts yet.
So how do we tell the difference between that healthy privacy and the kind of secrets that are really damaging to a relationship?
That's the million-dollar question, because the truth is not all secrets are created equal. Some secrets have the potential to really blow things up,
Okay, like what?
like lying about your core values or your goals for the future. Imagine you're building a life with someone, assuming you're on the same page about wanting kids, for example, and then years down the line you find out they never wanted them at all.
Oof. Yeah, that's a big one.
Right. That's not just like a little white lie. And then there's financial dishonesty. That is one of the biggest sources of conflict in relationships. Hiding debt or having secret spending habits, all of that just erodes trust in a way that can be really hard to come back from.
Why do people even risk it though?
It's usually a combination of things, but the important thing is for couples to create an environment where they feel safe talking about their finances, even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, transparency is so important, especially when it comes to something as impactful as money. And of course, we can't forget about infidelity and emotional cheating.
Right. Those are definitely in a category of their own. Those violate the fundamental agreements of a relationship, and they cause a lot of pain.
It's not just about the physical act, but the betrayal of trust.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's the secrets that aren't as obvious that can be just as damaging over time.
You're talking about things like withholding your feelings or your needs. It might seem harmless at first, like you don't want to burden your partner, or you tell yourself it's not a big deal. But when you constantly bottle things up,
You create distance.
yeah, exactly. And that lack of communication can lead to resentment, misunderstandings, and a whole lot of drama.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the harmful secrets.
Yeah.
But how do we cultivate that healthy privacy we were talking about before?
Well, it starts with recognizing that you don't have to share every single thought and feeling you have with your partner. You're allowed to have your own inner world, your own hobbies, your own ways of processing your emotions.
So if I need to vent to a friend before I talk to my partner, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Not at all. Healthy privacy is about being selective with what you share, not about actively hiding things that would impact your partner's trust in you.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
So when does healthy privacy cross the line into secrecy?
A big red flag is when you're intentionally withholding information that you know would hurt your partner, or if you're hiding things that go against agreements you've made as a couple.
So if I'm hiding something because I'm afraid of a fight, that's probably not a good sign.
Right. In that case, it's coming from a place of fear, rather than a desire to protect your partner or the relationship.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But what if you're the one who's kept a secret and you need to have that conversation? How do you even begin to approach something like that?
That's something a lot of people struggle with, and we'll definitely get into that.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about how to have those tough conversations
Mm.
in a way that doesn't end in disaster.
The first thing to remember is timing is everything. You don't want to just drop a bomb on your partner when they're already stressed out. Or if you're in the middle of an argument.
Find a time when you can both be present.
Exactly. And once you've found the right time, it's important to own your mistakes. Take responsibility for your actions without making excuses.
So just be upfront about why you kept the secret.
Yes. And this is where it's crucial to focus on rebuilding trust, not defending yourself. Explain why you kept the secret, but also acknowledge how it might have impacted your partner.
It's about having empathy.
Exactly.
Oh.
And finally, be open to their feelings. Your partner has a right to feel however they feel. Give them space to process everything without getting defensive.
So create a safe space for them. This is really helpful advice. But sometimes it's not even about a specific secret right. Sometimes it's just the fact that your partner is secretive in general. That's a red flag.
That's a great point. If your partner is constantly hiding things, no matter how small, it could be a sign of a bigger issue.
Like what?
Well, it could mean they're not really invested in building intimacy, or that they don't trust you enough to be vulnerable with you.
So they're building walls instead of bridges.
Exactly. And those walls make it really hard to have a loving and trusting relationship.
So it seems like one of the big takeaways here is that healthy relationships require a balance of openness and privacy.
I like that. It's about being honest with each other, while also respecting each other's need for space.
We've covered so much today, and I'm sure our listeners have a lot to think about. Have you ever been in a situation where a secret had a big impact on your relationship? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to hear people's stories, and there's another layer to this whole secret thing that we haven't really talked about yet. Sometimes the act of keeping a secret can be just as damaging as the secret itself.
Wait, really?
Okay.
I thought it was all about like the content of the secret, like what the secret actually is.
Well, that definitely matters. But let's say you're keeping something relatively small under wraps. Maybe it's something you're embarrassed about, or you're worried it'll cause a fight. Because you're so focused on hiding it, you start acting differently.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you might become withdrawn, or avoid certain topics, or even start telling little white lies to cover your tracks.
So even if the secret itself isn't a huge deal, the effort of hiding it starts to affect the relationship.
Exactly. And that can erode trust even more than the secret itself would have. It's like the snowball effect. The more you try to hide it, the more your behavior changes, and the more damage is done.
That's such a good point. It's like keeping a secret can change a person.
Yeah, and it highlights how important honesty is, both with ourselves and with our partners.
So how do we break free from that cycle?
It starts with acknowledging the impact that secret's having on you and on the relationship. Ask yourself, is it worth it? Is this secret worth the emotional toll it's taking?
And if it's not?
If the answer is no, then it's time to have a conversation.
I can imagine that's really scary for some people.
It definitely takes courage to be vulnerable like that. But honesty is the foundation of any strong relationship. If you want true intimacy, you have to be willing to risk having those tough conversations.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we approach those conversations in a way that's constructive?
Well, first of all, choose the right time and place. Don't try to have a serious conversation when you're stressed out or tired.
Create a safe space.
Exactly. And when you do have a conversation, be direct. Don't try to sugarcoat things. Your partner deserves the truth.
And own up to your mistakes.
Absolutely. Focus on expressing your regret and your desire to rebuild trust.
Show them you're serious about making things right.
Right. And don't forget to listen. Let your partner share their feelings. And try not to get defensive.
It's about creating a dialogue.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be helpful to have a neutral third party there, like a therapist. Someone who can help you navigate the conversation.
That's a great point. So we've talked about the downsides of secrets, but what about healthy privacy? How can couples figure out those boundaries?
Communication is key. Talk about your needs and expectations around privacy. What are you comfortable sharing? What would you rather keep to yourself?
It's like creating a roadmap for each other.
Exactly. And those boundaries can change over time.
So it's an ongoing conversation.
Absolutely.
This has been so helpful, but I have one more question. Is there ever a time when it's okay to keep a secret from your partner?
That's a tough one. I think there are definitely situations where discretion is necessary, especially when it comes to protecting someone else's privacy.
Like if a friend tells you something confidential.
Exactly. Or if sharing information could put someone in danger.
So it's not always so black and white.
It's about using your judgment. And if you're ever unsure, talking to a trusted friend or therapist can be really helpful.
This has been such a great conversation. It's clear that secrets play a huge role in our relationships.
They do.
Now, before we wrap things up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What are some secrets that you think are always okay to keep? And which ones are never okay?
Wow, that's a really tough question. I mean, there are so many different factors to consider. Like, every relationship is unique.
Right. What one couple thinks is okay, another couple might see as a total deal breaker.
Exactly. But I do think that in most healthy relationships, there's at least a basic understanding of what kinds of secrets are okay and which ones are totally off limits.
So it's not just about the secret itself. It's about the agreements you've made as a couple.
Yeah, like let's say you and your partner have agreed to be totally open about your finances. Then keeping a secret bank account would be a violation of that agreement, no matter what the reason is.
That makes sense. It's about honoring the boundaries you've set together.
Right. And I think it's also important to consider the intention. Like, why are you keeping this secret? Are you doing it out of love? Or are you doing it out of fear or manipulation?
So if you're keeping a secret to protect your partner, that's different from keeping a secret because you're ashamed of something.
Yeah. But even then, you have to think about the potential risks. What happens if the secret comes out?
Because secrets usually do come out eventually.
They often do. And if it seems like you were intentionally trying to deceive your partner, the damage can be even worse.
So honesty really is the best policy.
I think so. It's the foundation of a good relationship.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we've covered everything there is to know about secrets.
I think so too. It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. And if you're looking for more relationship advice, be sure to subscribe to Healing Growth. We'll see you next time.